Whoa. Welcome
What's up,
back.
Bags?
Podcast 29.
What's up, guys? Episode 29. It's great. We're almost even at 30. We're almost at the end of the year. It's awesome. But we'll just jump right into everything. So thank you to the sponsors: Taylor's Tins, Toxic Suppression, Crew First Culture, Jobtown Graphics. We keep talking about them. We've been posting about them. Just go check them out. These guys are awesome. We would obviously not be here. We've said that so many times without their help, but we can't thank them enough. So keep looking out for sweatshirts. Jobtown's working on those. We're gonna hopefully posting those, getting those finalized soon. We're trying to do some new designs. We got a new sponsor, so we're throwing that all on. We want to get it out as quick as we can because it's turning into sweatshirt weather. So look out for those. We're really excited about that. Guest list for next year. We've got, I think we just counted 3 spots open, somewhere around there. So if you know someone, if you want to be on, reach out, send us a message. We got those 3 openings, so it'll be huge. We're trying to do some cool new things next year. So we're going to branch out into a little bit more than just fire. So right now we're hoping to we got a military, civilian, a EMS, and a law enforcement. So we're going to try and do kind of one of those each year as well. Just throw in a little mix up, see the similarities and a little bit of the differences in the fire service and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. We're trying to keep things fresh, keep things new. Yeah, it's kind of all I got before. You got anything, Brennan?
Oh, I think we're good. Yeah. Look out for the sweatshirts. We'll be mailing out the challenge coins here shortly.
Yeah, all the guests. So yeah, we just are getting that all locked down. So those will be out shortly. So if you are a guest on the podcast, if you know us in person and we see you in person, we'll probably get you there. Otherwise, look in the mail and we'll have those coming out. So that's something cool we've been looking forward to. So right here, we got it. Another thing from Jobtown, just a little token. So yeah, if you want to be on, if you want to get a coin, reach out to us. And then when
coin and a handwritten letter.
Oh, handwritten.
I'm not handwriting.
Can you write it? Can you write legible?
We'll try.
Awesome. But yeah, when you're reaching out, if you want to be on the podcast, then send in a question as well. So there you go. All right. Without further ado, let's bring in our man of the hour and our guest. We got Bryan. Bryan, how's it going?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
I got to thank you guys. This is a huge honor. I really appreciate it.
Honor's all ours. Why don't you go ahead and give a little introduction about yourself? Tell everybody about you.
Well, first off, I don't know why she's still with me, but I've been married for 25 years. I have a very understanding, beautiful wife. I have 2 boys that are adults now. I know it looks like I'm 29 years old, but I'm a little bit older than that. And so I started out my adult life, had to get out of my small town and join the military. And I went into the Air Force. My dad told me that the only thing I could ever do is to not join the Army. Long story short, I ended up working directly for the Army. So my dad got a big kick out of that. A little bit about what I did. I was not like special forces or anything like that. I actually got to work for them. The coined phrase at my firehouse was I was a weather weenie. So what that means is I was basically a forward observer for Army Special Forces and Special Operations. So I would go with their teams. I was kind of like the redheaded stepchild of them. Not nearly trained as much as they are, but I was able to go with them, and I got to experience some really cool stuff and got to work with some of the best leaders and some of the best guys I've ever seen trained and the way they handled themselves under pressure. So I got to go to a couple different places that were not so nice back in the day. I went to the Gulf War. I was in Mogadishu at the time, and I was not in the Mogadishu Mile or anything like that. I was just at the airport and stuff. But I got to experience some pretty cool stuff in the military, and that really started off my adult life pretty strong with some good leadership examples and stuff. I got out of the military, like our friend JD. Unfortunately, I'm not as smart as he is, but U.S. Marshals did not want me. So federal law enforcement did not want me. So I started looking around for other things after I got out of the military, and I thought, wow, I have a parachuting background in the military. I'm going to go become a smoke jumper. Kind of an adrenaline junkie. So I went to go ahead and try and set up a phone interview, and I started talking with the supervisor out there, and he's like, "What are you going to do in the off season?" I'm like, "What? There's an off season?" I thought forest fires happen all the time. So long story short, it was only seasonal work. So I decided against that. And then I ended up in Genoa City, a very small town south of Lake Geneva. And it was a great volunteer department. A little bit about that department. Back in the day, and this is a long time ago, we actually used to have to pay $2 dues to be a part of the fire service, to be a part of that fire department. And that helped pay lights and stuff. And we were so small time. We did like huge fundraisers and raffles and stuff just to buy rigs. My frontline engine was a 1969 Perch engine, and yeah, it was pretty old, So I got to fight my first structure fire with my fire chief, who was an old Vietnam veteran. I'm positive he's not with us anymore, Butch Armstrong, and it was him and I. He set the pump, and then we hit it from the back door on the Charlie side and put out a kitchen fire together, and that was it. There was nobody else there. So that's the small time we were just under 1,000 people at the time. So
wow.
So after that, I started testing around, went to a bunch of schools and stuff, started my associate degree down there, and then I became lucky enough to get hired by Waukesha in November of '96, and I'm sure that's before you guys were born.
Yep.
Yeah, but I thought you said you were 29.
Yeah, I know.
It's wow. So you got hired right away. That's crazy. Out of the womb, you got hired.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm sure you heard that from a lot of the old guys too. Back then, there was a lot of people trying to get fire department jobs. There was 700 people to get to our list. There was a hiring freeze due to a lawsuit. So they took a big bunch of guys. All of a sudden, they didn't hire anybody for like 2.5, almost 3 years. So overtime was really big. The old guys that I got hired under were not so happy when we walked in the door because we were taking away all their overtime. So we were definitely different than the rest of them. We were my training officer, Kevin Kroger, was this was like his first group of people, like of what he wanted to hire. And so they coined the phrase Kroger's Hitler Youth. So we all had short hair. A lot of us were former military. So we were definitely a different breed. They didn't talk to us a whole lot. It wasn't even hazing. It was more so ignoring, so
yeah.
Not long after that, after my recruit academy, I begged our training officer, who was also in charge of our special services team, our tech rescue and hazmat team for our small suburban department. I begged him to be a part of the team. I was lucky enough to get a part of it right away. Started my training pipeline not long later. Big influence in our tech rescue stuff was Leroy Harbach, who is a full-time teacher for CMC right now. He teaches all over the place. He got hired by us not too long later, and then really got us to a next level as far as for getting our training in, getting all certified through NFPA approved classes and those kinds of things. So it's a great experience.
Awesome.
Not long after that, or a long time after that, then I became a member of the Fools, and I'm very proud of being a part of Rouge City Fools. Great organization. It's where I met you guys. I can't say enough things about the Fools. It's amazing. It really, really is. So, and then here lately, probably in the last 3 years or so, I started doing a little bit of public speaking. I started out with the Wisconsin State Firefighters Convention. I've spoke there twice. I got lucky enough last year to be a speaker at WAMR, the hazmat conference. And then probably the biggest one that I got to do a keynote for Blackhawk Tech for their kind of like their fire service in service last January, I believe it was. So
awesome.
I dabble in a little bit of writing, even though it's really good to have a wife that's a teacher that can spell and read on the computer. So I did write a piece that got put into fire engineering earlier this year. Really, really humbled by that people would actually
Cool.
listen to what I was saying. So I went and tried it again, and I'm in the process right now of hopefully going to get that approved.
Cool.
It's very difficult to be a small time person to try and get something into fire engineering. I know that
Yeah.
for a fact.
I'll have to go check it out. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
So
our first question to you is, where did you discover your passion for training?
I would say first and foremost, in my training academy with Chief Kroger, he really instilled in us that we were going to be different. And he told us, he never sugarcoated anything. He really told us how hard it was going to be and how we were going to have to keep on striving to be better and better. Two big things that happened in my career early on after I got promoted. We had I would say, a delayed grab on Madison Street, where I was first due riding a quint out of our station one. And, I was probably promoted all of 2 years. And I did my scan with the camera. We did a sweep going into the door, and there was a guy about 10 feet on a couch. And it was one of those where it was like, they told us, nobody was home. Dispatch said nobody was home. Neighbors, onlookers, everybody said nobody's home. And this guy's a second or third shifter that was sleeping on the couch. We ended up finding him after a knockdown and then dragged him out. And by the grace of God, he lived. But that was really delayed. We probably would have had him out probably 4 to 5 minutes sooner, because of that. So that really instilled one of the big things to me about, training. Search wasn't super big back then, but it really instilled to me that I really need to be on top of my game as far as for, leading a crew into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, kind of like our pinnacle of the team, we had a green bin rescue where a guy I talked about, Leroy Harbach, he had left our department, retired, and then went to become a full-time instructor at CMC. And when he did that, our training went way down, non-existent. And a lot of guys grew really complacent about, we're never going to go on these tech rescue calls. We hardly ever went out of the city at that time. And then all of a sudden, we had to pay the piper, and we got called for a grain bin rescue. We had 2 farmers that were down in the grain. A couple things I clearly remember out of that day were just the chaos of us trying to get out of the city, because we had only responded out of the city one other time for tech rescue. And the second we got out there, I heard their incident commander on scene say, "Tell those Waukesha guys if they're not in their harnesses, as soon as they get here, these 2 guys are going to die." And unbeknownst to us, there was also 2 local firefighters of the first responding fire departments that had also went into the bin, were succumbed to CO and treated and transported. One had actually spent the night in the hospital because of so much inhalation of CO. So we got there. We were not very well, not very efficient in what we did. And long story short, it took us probably about 59 minutes to get those guys out. And I'm not saying that we are like God's gift to tech rescue or anything like that. It was more of a road problem with a confined space. And today we could do it extremely faster than what had happened at that day. So that kind of started a role of training and stuff where I was still downtown at the main station at the time, but still part of the team. And I moved out to Fire Station 5, which as today is basically the SST house, or the team house. And when I moved out there, I had to go ahead and basically, as a very young lieutenant, not only try and train my crew to get them back into training after that bad call that we experienced, but I also had to get some of the other crews out there to do it. And there was a very senior crews out there, and they weren't all team guys. So I would show up on my off days and try and beg them to go out and do like a quick little system setup, or set a confined space up, or do a decon corridor or something like that for hazmat. And a lot of times back then, those guys had walked away and left, and they didn't want to even, acknowledge that we needed that, because they didn't get to experience what we experienced out there that day. There was only 10 of us out there.
Yeah.
So after that, I did that on and off for about 3 years. And then finally, one of my cohorts in crime, a good friend of mine, got promoted. And then he came out to the team house, and then there was 2 of us. And then we started feeding off each other and really training harder and harder. And then now we have 3. So there's 3, and now they call us team leaders basically out there. And we handle all the tech rescue and hazmat training for the team. Every month we're into one of the disciplines. We do anything from small exercises to really large exercises. We just did last month, one of our young guys. We always trying to incorporate our young guys so that way they can basically learn how to set up training and stuff. One of our young guys set up a credible exercise where it was like a competition for confined or for rope rescue. Last year was for confined space.
Cool.
We stole the idea. This isn't an original idea at all. CMC does the Grim competition every year out in that big battleship. So we don't have a battleship, but we do have an incinerator, a training center.
Yeah.
It has all the represented. You've been there.
Yeah, that's where I did my CMC stuff. That place is awesome.
Yeah, it's got all the spaces and stuff. So we did 3 evolutions for time and safety and stuff. And we actually brought back the Godfather, we like to call him. Leroy Harbach came back and scored for us. It was really cool. That competition and that team-like concept where we take each shifts or each cruise to go out there and compete like that on separate days. Again, we're super lucky. Our department let us do it off duty. So we all came in, got paid overtime to do this. It was an incredible day. And our crews performed amazing. And it's really cool to see like how each team looks at a problem differently and what techniques and basic techniques they apply to go ahead and perform that rescue is really amazing. So very proud to be a part of that team. Honored to be a team leader there. And I work with unbelievable guys and girls out there at Fire Station 5. It's really awesome.
Awesome, man.
All right, I'm rattling on. Sorry.
No, that's good. No, this is awesome. The second question that we got is, what piece of advice were you given on day 1 that stuck with you?
Well, one of the things I would say, the biggest thing that really stuck with me was Chief Kroger had always told us to be aggressive. Aggressive firefighting, aggressive going towards your education, aggressive going towards promotion, everything like that. So I've tried to take that in and even as an old guy, be really aggressive as far as for when we're attacking problems, whether it's tech rescue, whether it's hazmat, whether it's firefighting, all those different types of things. And I try and instill that in a lot of our young guys too, is I think sometimes when, especially as our workforce gets younger and younger, we have people that get hired that are extremely young. And it's very tough because everything's really new to them, So I always tell them, it's okay to make a mistake as long as it's an aggressive mistake. We try and instill some of the same values that we were taught when we were young firemen. Was, if the boss tells you to take out that wall, you look like you're so angry at it, and you take it out like, just like a madman, and we've had some great examples of that. We have some really good young guys out there at our station right now that are very aggressive.
Awesome. Third question. What conferences or training do you think every new firefighter should attend?
Conferences, I would say firemanship, 100%.
Yeah.
I had an incredible experience down there. I got to see you down there, Brennan. Yeah. It was like a homecoming to get to see some of the guys, that we see around at a lot of the other conferences. The socials were great. Being able to be there, from the social standpoint, being able to sit there and have a one-on-one conversation with Blatz. It was new after Ryan had got hurt at the fire in MFD, and get to hear his insight and his stories, and just some of the instructors. I mean, I've never personally been to FDIC, but firemanship was second to none. I mean, and we brought 2 very young guys with us, Chandler and Nate, and those guys ate it up. and it was really cool to have those guys with us. So there's myself, my training officer, one of the other team leaders, and then the two younger guys too. And it was just phenomenal experience. I walked out of there just ready to run through a wall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's a lot of great hands-on training hot classes that were going on. I think all weekend it was. Yeah, it was just a great conference to attend. So I encourage you guys to, attend next year. I think they're having one. So
Yeah. I think the
two of-
dates are out. Make sure I make it this time.
Yeah, the deadline to sign up is December 2nd. And I think that kind of helped it a little bit too, because, the anticipation, I was sitting on my computer waiting, to try and get into those classes. It was kind of cool. It's like you're trying to get concert tickets and
Yeah.
you're just waiting for it to open up, and the premise of firemanship is so awesome that they make it so that way you could sign up for $1. So if you're a department that is not going to be able to, afford to send you to this great training, you can sign up for $1 and still participate. And to me, that's what the fire service really is. It's about that giving back and making sure everybody can get a piece of it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. All right. And this one, you don't get any feedback, or not feedback. What am I trying to say, Bryce?
You don't get
You
any
get
preparation.
preparation.
Insight. There you go.
So this question is, why are we here? You can take this however you want. Everyone has an awesome answer to it, and you can just take it however you want. So the floor is yours.
Well, first and foremost, I think, I know it's the canned answer with the them comment, we are here for them. I like to look at it as a little bit broader. Not only are we there for the people that can't help themselves, first and foremost, could be our citizens. It may be somebody that when we're off duty that we go to help. We're in that servant type atmosphere that we have to go out and help people, and it's built within us being firemen. But I also think the other part of it too is them is also the people around us. I was, I guess I could say, unlucky enough to experience some mental health stuff go on in my department, and we sent a couple guys out to the Center of Excellence, and it's a real thing, and some of the things that we see in the fire service, you can't unsee, and I think that a lot of times, the average firefighter will, if somebody's going through something, you'll send them a text, or if somebody's having a hardship with their family, they'll be like, "Hey, if you need anything, let me know." That's the easy part. One of the things that I'm very proud of at my station is we always go that next step, and we always try to make sure we interject ourselves into that situation. So not only do we reach out, but we show up. And it's, if a guy's off, on injury leave for a couple weeks, we try and show up and make sure we get them involved. If we have somebody that's going through a hardship, we show up and cut their grass, move their snow. I think about years ago when my father passed away. I never asked for it. I was out in Nebraska in the middle of nowhere, and my whole crew showed up at my house with four-wheelers. They just everything. They had massive guys just moving snow for me, and making sure my wife and my kids were taken care of while I was out of town. That's how we have to take care of each other, because I think everything's becoming so impersonal nowadays, especially with social media, and after we went through COVID and stuff and everything, that we have to get back to that brotherhood, the brother and sisterhood of taking care of each other and making sure that everybody's okay. Because I'm not saying that we candy coated or we handhold people and stuff. There's a difference. But if somebody's actually going through something, and you can tell when somebody's going through something, or you check up on somebody, you got to make sure you're there, and you got to make sure you're there and really push yourself into it. Sometimes it's got to be a little bit forceful, because a lot of people want to close up and they don't want that help. And in my experience anyways, it's been helpful to be there for them. And we're really lucky in Waukesha too. We have an incredible MAP program. We actually have first responder psychological, I'm going to screw this up, first responder psychological services that's attached for our department. Our department makes sure we can do a neck up checkup every year.
Awesome.
Especially they kind of
Yeah.
came into fruition after our parade tragedy that happened in Waukesha a couple of years
Yeah.
ago. And some guys are really seeing some great results from going to see those people over there. And they're a good group of people, and they really do a good job for taking care of guys for the mental health aspect.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's what you need. Like you said, nowadays it's a little different with the phones and the social media. I mean, it's you can be very tight at work, but it's kind of interesting that when you be tight at work and not kind of outside of work. So that's something I've seen, witness, you hear people talk about it, that it takes a little bit of forcefulness, like, and like we've talked about with training and everything, sometimes it can only start with one person, if, hey, let's go get breakfast, let's go out for drinks, and everybody's got an excuse, but one guy is like, oh, I think I can make it. All right. And then next month you try it again, and now two guys can make it. It's like, it's just, sometimes you got to start small, but yeah, getting outside of work, that's huge.
And I've learned that, from my position, when I have somebody, I don't know, I wouldn't say act up, but if somebody's going through something and they're really starting to, buck the system or something like that, and it's just not like them, that's one of the first things I go to is, rather than be like, hey, why the F did you do this?
Right.
I talk to them and be like, hey, how's everything going at home? Is everything okay with your wife? How's it going with your kids? Are you going through anything right now? And try and start digging deeper a little bit before I start getting into, you mess this up, you got to fix this, because there could be some underlying factors.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's important. Just as much as we take care of everyone, you got to take care of yourself. So that's awesome. Next question that we got for you, pretty straightforward. We know you're a big tech team guy, but when it comes to being on the engine or the truck, are you a hose junkie or are you a truckie?
Truckie, 100%. So my first 14 years, we were at well, when I first started, I should say, we had a double company downtown at our station one. We had 4 stations. We had an engine and truck, and then back and forth. Sometimes we had an ambo down there, sometimes we didn't. But we always had like engine truck. And then when Station 5 got built, our truck company went out there, and then right about 2010 is when I moved out there then. So, and ever since I've been riding on it. It's a Quint. It's not like a dry truck or anything like that. It's typical Wisconsin Quint, but we try and build in that truck culture as much as we can.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, we got it. We got a Quint and a true truck. It's still got a tank on it. But it's kind of it's a fun time. So you got to get that truck culture. It's a very interesting thing. Like you said, you talk about Wisconsin, especially around here, that truck culture is not a set thing. It's not a very common thing that wherever you go. It's kind of engine first.
Yeah. And I got to give hats off to one of my cohorts in crime out there. One of my other team leaders, Cody, he started up this kind of like we call it a playbook. And we started it for the station, and we put our mascot on there, our gorilla, and but it really started to evolve into, it's not only just riding positions, but it's kind of like the plays that we do and stuff, and it's all that's based on the different, our truck features. Are we doing RIT? Are we doing search? Are we doing large area search? Are we doing flat roof ventilation? Are we doing peak roof ventilation? VES, everything. Mm-hmm. So that way we're all working together. So when we go into that, there's no question, because for a very long time, I would do things one way. One guy would do things the other way, and the other guy would do things the other way, out of our station. And, it was very uncertain for our new guys when they would work a trade or work overtime with one of the other crews. So it helps even it out a lot, and it's a really cool thing, and it's really got some thought provoking. We've had guys that were on they were doing search the other day on a small fire that they had on their crew, and one of the other stations are like, why do you have that stuff sitting there? What are you guys doing? But just because of the fact that we're doing a little bit different, we're kind of setting that tone a little bit to make it so that way other people start following up and thinking outside the box more.
Yeah, it's funny you brought that up because we had the same similar conversation yesterday on shift with me and my captain, and he's trying to make up a playbook, just kind of standardize,
Nice.
how we should be doing, search operations, fire attack, or whatnot. Because we got one station, we got 3 shifts, so we pretty much work with each other, throughout the 3 shifts, and you can kind of get different variations on each shift. So just having kind of like a standardized, go to, so no, like you said, it limits the questions when you actually get on scene. So
And it frees up, from a leadership standpoint or a company officer or even a battalion chief standpoint, it frees up them to kind of like detach and think about what they're going to do next. So if
right,
your guys are actually doing those first 5 steps, um, then you're able to focus on your 360, focus on your size up, read your smoke, do everything you're going to do, look for those searchable spaces if it's search or anything, and then you come back and those couple little tasks are accomplished. It makes for a smoother command structure, from whether it's the small team company, all the way to the battalion chief or your entire shift and a full structure fire.
for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Lats talked about it when we had him on, but you need to have a plan A before you can have a plan B through Z. And like you said, from a leadership, if you got trade, like if you know what everybody is going to be doing, unless told otherwise, it makes things so easy, because then you can, like you said, take a look around, maybe look at what audibles you have to call, but you don't have to be looking like in every corner as to, okay, where's this person? What'd they do once I got off the rig? Like, I know what they should be doing because I haven't said anything. So they're working on plan A. And now as a leader, okay, we're going to try plan B here. We're going to try plan C, whatever it may be. But you have to have that plan A to even, progress and change something if it needs to happen.
Amen. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So still kind of talking about the training a little bit. How do you guys enforce and maybe even choose your minimum standards?
I'll speak at least for our station,
Yeah.
because I think every fire department in Wisconsin that's a small suburb, you can have anywhere from 5 different fire departments to, like us, we always joke about we have 15 different fire departments because we have 5 stations.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so, for our standards, we really try to enforce them through our senior leadership, especially with our senior man. We really try to empower them as much as possible. I have 2 incredible senior men right now that are really good at it, to make sure that we're keeping tabs on the entire crew. And sometimes, from my standpoint as the company officer, uh, when they do bring up problems to me, I also go back to them and I throw it back on them a little bit and be like, well, did you coach them through it? Did you say something at the moment? And if they say no, I'm like, well, go say it. Go show them how it's supposed to be done, because that reinforces that idea of how that standard should be. We try and hold a pretty high standard. We get joked around about, we have one of Taylor's tins going out to our bay floor it says, expect fire, expect victims. And that was poked fun at quite a bit, but,
I love
with
that sign. I love that
I do
quote.
too.
I brought that exact same thing when I was in Beaver Dam. Is this still up there, Brennan?
Yeah, it's still up
Yeah.
there.
Door leading out to the bay. Put the exact same thing. It's true. It's
Yeah.
more than true.
So when our crews go out, and we're always trying to enforce that, turnout time to be as fast as possible. And my battalion chief he's a numbers guy, and every quarter he shows us, how fast our turnout time is, and so we're really pushing the envelope as fast as we can to try and get out there and get en route. And that's just one of our standards. Our other standards is the training piece. Our house at Station 5, we average about, in tech rescue and hazmat alone, over all of our firefighting stuff, we average probably about 200 extra hours a year per guy, to accomplish all those tasks and to stay up with the OSHA standards and stuff like that, especially for confined space and for hazmat. But we really try to do that. And, at the end of the day, the best thing you can do is show them by the example. So me being the old guy, we have a fitness standard. I'm the one that's in there trying to kill himself in the gym all the time. we had one of our young guys. He's not young, but one of our newer employees that just got on the team. He's a former CrossFit coach, and he came out with this app, and this app is for the entire department, and it's kind of like a blend of CrossFit and functional fitness. So I'm out there doing his workout all the time. I have my blast mask on. And like I said, at 29, it gets a little rough, but I got the blast mask on. I've kind of gotten away from doing workouts in full gear, just because it's really hard to then go back into go onto a run.
Yeah.
But me and one of my other crewmates, we bought the sauna jackets. He had originally had the pants on too, but he couldn't get the pants off once for an EMS call, and that was a little rough for him. He had sweated him up so much, but yeah. So we're trying to do as much as we can to set that standard. One of our guys on the other shift that I worked with for the last couple years, he was such a fitness freak and stuff. He used to just, really push the envelope, and he had a great keen sense of being able to get the guys that aren't normally working out to get in there, at least get on the elliptical, or at least to walk, or at least to lift a little bit. And again, our department's awesome. We have great fitness stuff. We have great workout systems and everything. And we have a lot of guys that are out there doing Blues workout now. Our coach, basically, I call him Coach all the time. It drives him nuts. And I pester him with questions all the time too. And I was just texting him this morning, and I'm like, "Hey, thanks for putting that in there." Or I'll text him. I'll be like, "You know what? I really hate your guts right now.
Yeah,
I can barely move.
Fucking dying right now."
Yeah, but it's really good, So our standard of fitness, our standard of training, and our standards, of turnout time, we really try and focus on that. And the bottom line is you got to set the example.
Yeah.
Because if the old goat is out there working out twice in a shift, and he's, I cheat. I sleep fully dressed. I put the air conditioning down way low so I can handle it. And then I'm flying out there, and I try and be the first one to the rig all the time.
Yeah.
So that way our young guys don't have any excuse. And then that way I have the ammunition to go back to them and be like, "Hey, you got to get faster getting out of bed. You got to get faster getting to the rig. You can't be taking that extra bite of food. You can't be doing this. We got to get out there, because you never know." So, but yeah, set that standard and lead from the front and lead by example.
Yeah. That fitness standard is huge. That was something new coming to my department now, is we have the mandatory workout time. So like at 2:30, you have to be working out. And if the caveat is, if you aren't, you better be doing something productive. So because there's some senior guys that, they don't, that's their decision. But more than the ones that aren't, there are the guys that go to the elliptical, go to the treadmill, and enforcing that mandatory workout time, but then being open for the fact that we have a pickleball court at all of our stations now. Our chief approved that.
Awesome.
They somebody had that as an idea, and so he's like, yeah. So then it'll be a Sunday, and instead of, now that it's football, now it's getting a little cold, and it's a little more recliner time. But summer Sundays, instead of just sitting around inside, you've got the one day I worked an overtime shift, I played 5 hours of pickleball.
Wow.
You got our calls in between, but you get back, the courts are still there. You get back, it's like, all right, who's next? We just it's great because it's good camaraderie, and everybody, it's the workout when it's not feeling like workout, but it really it's just a great thing to do, to especially stay that open when it's not you better be in the gym, you better be doing someone came up with that idea just before I got hired, apparently, because when I got there, the main station was the only one with the court. And then during my recruit academy, and right as I got off, then the other stations painted their courts. So it was it's just a fun thing that it's still workout, and it's a good thing that was opened up and able to be done.
Yeah, some of our stations did the pickleball. We don't have one at our house yet, but I know some of the other stations have them painted out in their parking lot.
Yeah,
and kind of a unique thing going along with the sport thing too. One of my friends that just recently retired that I got hired with, he used to take his crew out on the bay floor. They do floor hockey in full gear on air.
Nice.
So they would be, breathing down a bottle and playing, it was a little bit more like guerrilla street hockey. But, you know, and he was a big, really good hockey player, you know, so he would just, you know, be taking shots left and right and really make everybody look like fools. But yeah, it was pretty cool. It's good to see everybody out and moving around and stuff. It's a lot better than just sitting in their recliner all day.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah. Next question we got from you. You talked about it a little bit before. I've talked about it every time that we bring someone that I know is a member on here. So I hope it's getting annoying, because maybe then you've actually went and joined. So what is the most impactful thing you've gained from the Fools?
Most impactful thing, I would say, that training piece, you know, the training piece and the motivation. One of the greatest things, the greatest thing that I got from the Fools, I would say, is guys like yourself. When I get to meet guys like you and some of the other guys at the Fools that are so into the job and they're so excited and they live, eat, breathe, and shit the job, you know, and it's, to me, from my era, you know, where it's, you know, the old guys and stuff. I'm kind of a unicorn in that aspect, and I'm not saying every old guy is like that, you know,
Yeah.
but it's a breath of fresh air, and to see everybody so excited about it and so into it and feeding off each other. And it's really cool to see too, like when you go to the trainings, especially, you know, if we're going to RIT training or we're going to the fundamentals training or whatever we're hosting or something, there's really no like rank structure. Everybody's just kind of like feeding off each other and throwing different ideas out and stuff. And it's the training atmosphere itself is second to none. I always try and put out you know, we have our Fools in November. I think we have a RIT training coming up again. And I try and get a lot of our new guys to go up there and do it, because, you know, whether your department's doing like a full formal RIT or you're doing something a little bit different, that's good fireman skills, you know, to be able to be comfortable in that heat and be able to move people and stuff, and, you know, rescue down victims, whether they're wearing an air pack or not. You're getting good reps in, you know, so yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things, that training piece, and being able to be around like-minded individuals that are super motivated.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's always a good time, especially you get the socials. And remember, you go to these trainings, you host different things, or you go to different places, and then it's like, once the training's done, you find someone local and you go, okay, where's the nearest bar? Like, where's you know, usually my favorite one was one of the old-fashioned ones we did was way up north. And so we asked for the local bar, and these guys stood around like, oh, that's a busy one, that's a good one. And like, no, where's the most dive bar here? And they're like, oh, you want to go here? Like, fuck yeah. So you have like 15 firemen walk into this dive bar, and everybody knows everybody. So they're all looking like, who the fuck are all these guys? This is perfect.
Yeah,
like,
right.
This is right where we wanted. And it's just, it's a great time. Like you talked about, it's a way that you get that outside camaraderie. You know, it's outside the job. Not only are you there for the training outside, but now you go to the bar. Maybe you take up one or two guys from your department, which, you know, we try and do. And now it's like, hey, that was really fun. So then next weekend, it's a Friday night. Like, hey, you guys want to go out to the bar? Oh yeah, why not? Like, it starts those connections right away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So join your local Fools. Say it every time.
Right on.
I hope it's annoying, because like every one of our guests is a Fools member, so that should like key you in that, you know, maybe it's a fun thing. But no, it's a great way to cut your teeth and get some good training and meet some great people. Awesome. Well, we are going to wrap up those questions and now move on to our closing questions. So we've got our question from our previous guest, John Hatrup, and then it will be up to you to come up with one for our next one, which you should know is going to be Chad Gonwa. So you should have a good question for him. But first, John asked, why did you get promoted, and what difference has that made in your fire service career?
Well, I got promoted very early in my career. Our department was going through such a transition. And like I touched back on my training officer, you know, he told us that we were going to be different, and he expected us to take advantage of promotional opportunities and stuff. So there was like really no question, like 95% of the 12 guys that came on that year were taking all these promotional exams right away. I tried my hat at driving right away with like 2.5 years on, caught a fire, and I never wanted to drive again. But I finished out my 2 years on the list because I was outside pumping rather than being inside having fun. That was never really my thing. But I would say probably the biggest thing that drove me to that was I had some bad examples of bad leadership. And not to say that as a young guy that I thought like I could do better, but I knew I could make a difference. So, for some of the ways that the examples that I saw really just irked me to no end, and if I had really good leadership and I had really bad leadership, especially when I was at that double house at Station 1 early on in my career, kind of had like the Jekyll and Hyde for a while. And if it wasn't for the good guy, I probably wouldn't be with Waukesha right now because I think the bad guy probably would have tried to get rid of me. So I did that kind of in spite to try and prove him wrong. I got promoted way too early. I had no idea what I was doing half the time, but I really went back to those leadership tenets and those examples that I had in the military. So I was very, very lucky to be able to see what it was like for people to work under high stress and to be able to remain calm and to be able to make decisions. Sometimes it's not the greatest decision. Sometimes, it might be a mistake, but at least it was an aggressive one. Not that I was unsafe by any means, but I always tried to make sure I was pushing the envelope all the time. So that's pretty much why I got promoted, was bad examples. What did it do for my career? Well, hanging in our office at Station 5, somebody gave it to me. The picture, it was a meme that was on social media for a while. Do you ever wonder why you're a lieutenant for life? So that's hanging there. And but it really opened some doors. It really helped me to help the department. And again, I'm super lucky. I will give out a thumbs up and praise for our department because they've given me a lot of rope to hang myself with and to have a lot of impact and influence on the department. We just recently got a burn tower. I was lucky enough to be picked as one of the guys to help teach out there. All the team stuff that I got to do with training and becoming a team leader, and the not so good stuff of going through some of those mental health things and stuff, and being able to be in a leadership position to give those guys help and to use some of my seniority, my rank, and my street cred to basically help those guys out a little bit and to get my higher ups to notice what was needed to be done. So it's really, really cool. I have guys that were my probies that are now battalion chiefs and stuff on my job, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
A very good friend of mine is one of our battalion chiefs, and he's still a go-getter and stuff, and he's probably the one we hazed and abused the most. Someday that's going to come back to bite me, but yeah, it's really given me some opportunities to be able to have some impact and influence. And I think that as you gain seniority on the job, that's one of the things you can't forget is always to continue to look for those opportunities to teach somebody something, to help them out with something, and have that servant type leadership in your mindset at all times, just to really go out of your way to work with somebody, whether it's showing them how to do a technique, working out with them, or just if they're having a bad day, just talking with them rather than ignoring them. Hey, I know you're having a bad day. I'm just going to leave you alone. I know you went, in your room at lunch. Go seek them out, find them, talk to them. So.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah. Like you said, it's the being aggressive and going for promotion. That's what you hear from a lot of the speakers and everything. If you're unhappy, like you said, that it's unfortunately, you don't want that to be the only drive, but if you think you can do better, or you just got ideas, or I like the way you put it, if you think you can just make a difference, like you got to promote. So
Yeah, if you want change, I mean, the only way to make change in the department is promotion. So
mhm.
Right
I
on.
have to.
But it's also not wrong to be the follower. Like that was one of the greatest. I think that was that at Sawdust, Brennan? Was that down at Wichita? I think it was Sawdust.
It's Sawdust.
Yeah, Mark Malone with the "It's okay to be a follower." Like you need followers. You need good firefighters. You need people in every aspect. So just don't force yourself into something, but do your job as best as you can.
And go out to challenge yourself too. If you're getting comfortable, go challenge yourself. You know, get out of the norm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it. All right, man. Well, now this is all on you. So you know our next guest. You just got your first question from the last one. Now you got to come up with one for Chad to answer.
Hardest part of this whole podcast is coming up with a question.
Yeah, that's why you have to send them in, people.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say Chad's one of those guys that's always been just so welcoming and so nice to talk to and stuff at all of our trainings and everything. He's just a down to earth, great guy and wealth of knowledge, great fireman. It's really cool to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with him. I always feel like I'm less of a person when I'm around him. So he's one of a kind. So I guess the question I would say is, you know, and it's kind of a challenging thought. You know, it's easy for us to talk about the fools and everything like that, but you know, how do we get the rest of the masses to be more passionate or passionate like us, like that feeling that we have when we're with our group with the fools, or when we're around a bunch of guys that really are, you know, into the job. How do we get the people that are, you know, I hate to say it, but you know, it's kind of like their part-time job. Firehouse is their part-time job, and then they have this
the other shirt and the paycheck.
Right. You know, they like to grow
passionate about it.
They like to grow the mustache. You know, they like to wear all the shirts and stuff like that. Sorry.
Yeah, fuck them guys.
I was just listening to Corley Moore when Mick Williams shaved his mustache.
Oh yeah.
I was like, holy cow, I gotta watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, you know, how do we get those guys involved? I think that's one of the challenges that we have in the fire service, especially as we get younger. You know, and I'm not a big generational person, as far as, you know, always blaming the younger generation, but I do think that there's some differences, and we have to look at different ways that we can grab hold of them and draw them in more to, and not that our way of thinking is right all the time, but I think that being passionate about what you do, even if it's just while you're there for 24 hours or 48 hours, whatever your shift is, if you're really into the job and you're really into it during that time frame, if we can at least draw them into that much, you know, and then keep on taking that next step.
Yeah.
You know, that's the dying question is, how do we do that?
Yeah. I think it's very easy. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you become very complacent really quick. So you get off, you know, your initial training, your probation, your crew training or whatnot, and then you're home free. Then it dies down from there. Then you just come to work complacent. Not always, but I think if you don't have that drive, I think you become very complacent in what you do.
Yeah, and we need to, you know, not only hold ourselves accountable, but we need to have accountability, like we were talking about before, for those standards, you know, and we need our more senior people to be like, hey, this isn't how we do this here. This isn't what we are. You know, you're better than that. You know, lock it up. Let's go.
Yeah, because this job definitely allows you to be complacent. You know, at its base, we, as much as, you know, we joke about maybe the cops poke at us, the second responders or the recliner warriors, like there is a lot of downtime. Most of the days that you're going to work, you are downtime more than you are actually doing what you're there for. So if you don't have that culture or those standards, it's very easy to find a comfy chair, very easy to work on your side job and forget that you're even at work. Like it's very easy in its base nature that you can be complacent in this job. So yeah, like you said, you just have to create that culture where it's not.
Yep. Totally agree.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up all the questions that we have for you. Last little section, any shout outs that you want, any trainings that are coming up that you want to shout out? Your episode will be the first Tuesday of November. So I don't know the exact date, but so that'll be right around there. I know you said that RIP was at the end of November, but yeah, anybody, any trainings, anything you want to shout out, you want to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, couple things. Like you said, our RIT training coming up. I believe it's November 16th. Keep on watching Brew City Fools for more updates when that comes around. It's a great training. We usually draw 2 or 3 McMinimans there, so it's always a great time and a wealth of knowledge. You know, those guys are amazing. Everybody there that's teaching is just phenomenal. Another thing, shout out to Jeremy Sanders. I know he's a big part of you guys.
Yeah.
He's been an inspiration for me from back when I got to see him. I lucky enough to have his cell number, and I text him from time to time. It's really cool that he's getting back into podcasts. He's one of the guys that really got me to step out of my comfort zone and get out and start doing public speaking. You know, it's kind of like leadership, team building stuff, culture stuff, and everything like that. But none of the stuff that I ever talk about is really original. It's you know, Corley Moore, it's Jeremy Sanders, you know, and I'm a huge Jocko fan. Extreme ownership really changed the way I look at things in my career and in my personal life. And so I really just try to go everything with those kind of things. And that's where a lot of my presentations are about and stuff. I also give them credit for all that too. I don't just say this is all my original stuff. And yeah, I think, you know, walking away from all this, you know, like that question that I had for our next guest, for Chad, that's one of the things we really got to look at, you know, is my second presentation that I did this last year was called The Impact of One. And it's based off my mentor. I have a mentor that's actually a neighbor of mine. It's a former Marine and a sheriff's department SWAT captain. And he told me one day, we were talking leadership stuff, and he was talking to me about how in the Marine Corps, it's like set in their standard that, you know, once you achieve the rank of PFC, I'm going to use Army ranks because I don't know Marine Corps ranks. Once you get that first rank, then it's your job to throw your arm around the shoulder of that new guy coming in, that new private coming in, and you teach him everything you can about the Marine Corps, and you make him as good, if not better than you are at everything you do. And it kind of made me think, like, you know, that could be one of the things that helps us make those changes in the fire service that we need to get, you know, anything from the, you know, like the guys that really want to be complacent and those types of things. And, you know, it takes a lot more for a younger guy to throw their arm around an older guy and get him involved.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible, you know, and I got to see that example, like I was talking about with Pete, my, one of our young guys out at our house that's on another shift now. You know, he had that keen sense of being able to positively feed into somebody and get them to start working out and get them to do it. So it's not impossible for us to do that, even for somebody that's a lot more senior than us too. You know, you just have to find the right avenue to do it and the right way to do it. But I think that we need to really look at those things and think about how we can throw our arm around that next guy coming in. Because right now, I think we're in a great part of the fire service career. I wish I wasn't in the twilight of my career, because this is awesome. But with, you know, you guys' podcasts and all the different podcasts out there and all the smaller conferences that are out there, like Sawdust and the Fools training and stuff like that. I mean, when I started in my fire service career, you know, minus going to WCTC, that was the only place you could go for training. You know, and then every once in a while you go to 5-alarm for extrication school, and that would be about it.
Yeah.
Now you have no excuse to go to 2-3 trainings, even in southeastern Wisconsin. You should be able to go to 2 or 3 every year.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, you know, get one guy and get him to come to that training with you. Get one guy, get him to come to the Fools with you, you know, and it just becomes, you know, a tumbling effect. And then all of a sudden, you know, you get 2 guys, and then that guy throws his arm around somebody and does the same thing. You know, I think that's how we can try and get this developed a little bit better, and we can get more involvement and change our culture, and get away from that complacency so much. Because
Absolutely.
it's really, really needed. You go to some places in the fire service and you're like, what the hell? They're like, oh yeah, well, we don't even put our gear out by the rig because we know we're going on EMS calls all the time.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do when a fire comes in? What are you going to do when somebody's trapped in a fire? EMS calls are kind of like playing the lottery. You got to play to win, right?
Yep.
And I can't remember who I heard it from, but they were talking about all the different things that we do in the fire service that can be contracted out besides firefighting. EMS can be contracted out, tech rescue, hazmat, all that stuff can be contracted out. But when you get to the point of being crazy enough to put a snowsuit on that can withstand 700 degrees and go into a burning room, that takes a special individual. So we got to hold true to that and be able to embrace that and make that a part of our culture that, we're always preparing. It's kind of like when I was in the military, you're always preparing for war, even though sometimes it may never happen.
Yeah.
And Corley Moore always talks about Nick Ledeen with his article that he wrote years ago now about, 30 years for 30 seconds. And I truly, truly believe that, I've been lucky enough to be a part of a couple different situations where we've grabbed some people and brought them out. Some people lived, some people didn't, but you got to be ready for it, and you got to be thinking that all the time. So, anyways, I'm rambling on. Sorry.
No, it's all good stuff.
Good.
So yeah, I mean, again, just thank you for taking the time and coming on the podcast. It's some great knowledge, great stuff, great conversations as always. And that's all we got for you. So unless you got any last shout outs, anything to throw out, that's our day.
No, I just want to thank you guys again. This has been awesome. A huge honor for me. I'm very humbled by doing this, especially when I look at the list of some of the guests you guys had. It's just like I'm blown away that I even got asked. So again, thank you guys very much. And of course, don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was great. Don't be a shitbag.
Everybody, see you on the next one.